Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. Personal finance. Specifically, how to actually save money. Because for so many of us, right, it feels like costs are just spiraling. You've got bills, rent or mortgage, groceries, just daily life stuff.
Yeah.
And the idea of putting a decent chunk aside, it can feel, I don't know, almost impossible, like a fantasy.
It really is a universal struggle, isn't it? We hear all this advice, read articles, and it often seems like it's for people with tons of extra cash lying around.
Exactly.
But for the average person, every dollar feels like it already has a job to do. When things are tight, saving can feel like you're giving up the few little things you enjoy.
Right. But that's what we're digging into today. Our mission, based on the sources we've looked at, is to show you that saving, it's genuinely possible, like at any income level. The problem usually isn't just not having enough money. It's often about using strategies that, well, they don't stick or they're just plain wrong for you.
Right.
So we're going to boil down the best techniques into what we're calling the 10 pillars of personal savings.
And I think the big thing, the foundation, is really a psychological shift. You got to move your thinking. Saving isn't about punishing yourself.
Okay.
It's about getting control. It's moving from what we could call accidental spending, where money just seems to evaporate.
Yeah, the classic where did it all go at the end of the month.
Exactly. Moving from that to intentional spending, where you decide deliberately where every single dollar goes.
I like that framing, intentional. And that brings us right to the sort of initial big idea, the hook, pillar one. Most people think, oh, I have a spending problem. But actually, before that, you likely have a tracking problem.
That's it.
If you don't know exactly where the leak is, how can you possibly fix it, right? So transparency first, seeing exactly where the money's going. That's step one. Okay, let's unpack that because it's so fundamental. Pillar one. Tracking where your money goes. The sources are really clear on this. Before you even think about cutting back or shifting funds, you need perfect visibility, crystal clear view of your finances.
Think of it like diagnosis, right? A doctor needs tests before they prescribe anything. If you're struggling to save, the first thing to accept is, honestly, your memory about where your money went. It's not reliable.
We forget the small stuff.
Totally. We remember the big things, the rent, the car payment, but the money disappears in all those little transactions added up.
Death by 1,000 cuts, financially speaking.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. So the action required here, it sounds simple, maybe even tedious, but it's crucial. Write down every single expense for a full month, 30 days.
And you mean everything?
Everything. From your big annual insurance premium payment down to like the pack of gum you bought at the checkout, that $4 coffee every morning, absolutely. Got to track it.
Okay, now, I know a lot of people listening might be thinking, well, I'll use an app for that, like Mint or YNE. They track everything automatically, and those are great tools.
They are, yeah.
But the sources suggest there's something special, psychologically, about manually writing it down. Why is doing it by hand, or at least actively typing it in, better than just letting an app scan your accounts?
That's a really insightful question. It taps into like behavioral economics, how our brains work with money. The apps are fantastic for looking back for analysis, but they don't create friction in the moment you spend. When you have to physically stop, pull out a notebook or an app on your phone and type in, just spent $15 on lunch, it forces a pause.
A moment of awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That physical act adds a tiny bit of cognitive load, a little bit of what they call transactional pain. It makes the spending feel more real. Swiping a card, you forget instantly. The money feels abstract until the bill comes.
Ah, okay. So pillar one isn't just about getting a report at the end of the month. It's about creating that real-time awareness, which just by itself might actually reduce some spending.
Absolutely. The sources show that people who track manually often cut back discretionary spending by, say, 10%, maybe 15% in that first month. Just because writing it down is, frankly, a little annoying, it acts as a deterrent.
Interesting.
And once you have that 30-day record, that's your baseline. That's where you see the surprise factor. The $300 you didn't realize you spent on lunches out, or the $120 on random digital things.
Okay, so that clarity, that baseline, leads directly into pillar two. Creating a realistic budget. And this is where so many people stumble, right? They hear budget and think, restriction, misery.
And that is the absolute key thing we need to get right. Budgets fail when they're too strict, period. They feel like they're built on scarcity, on saying no to everything. And that leads to what you could call financial fatigue. You get tired of it, you burn out, and boom, usually within a month or 6 weeks, you've quit the budget altogether.
Been there.
Right. So a budget that actually works, that's sustainable, it has to include room for fun. It needs a fun factor built in.
So we need a framework, a structure that kind of gives us permission to spend on enjoyable things, but still make sure the saving happens. The sources really like the 50-30-20 rule. Can you walk us through that? Because it sounds like a good balance.
Yeah, it's a great guideline. It's simple, memorable. Basically, you take your after-tax income, your take-home pay, and you divide it up. It gives you guardrails, not like handcuffs.
Okay.
So 50% goes to needs. These are the absolute must-haves. Your housing, rent, or mortgage utilities, essential groceries, transportation to work, minimum payments on any debts you have, the non-negotiables.
Got it. Half for essentials.
Right. Then 30% goes to wants. This is crucial. This is your discretionary spending bucket.
Yeah.
Eating out, movies, hobbies, that new jacket you've been eyeing, Netflix, Spotify, the fun stuff. This is what prevents the burnout we talked about.
Okay, so you're intentionally planning for enjoyment.
Exactly. And finally, 20% is for savings and debt repayment. This is where you build your future. It covers contributions to retirement accounts, building an emergency fund, saving for down payment, and paying anything extra towards high-interest debt, like credit cards.
20% for the future. Okay, 50-30-20. Needs, wants, savings debt. Seems straightforward, but I can already hear people, especially maybe living in expensive cities, saying, hang on, my rent alone is like 50% or 60% of my income. This rule is impossible.
Yeah, that's a totally valid and necessary challenge. The sources acknowledge this. If your needs genuinely eat up more than 50%, well, you haven't failed the budget. The budget has just shown you there's a bigger structural issue with your cost of living relative to your income.
So what do you do then?
You have to adapt the rule, at least temporarily. Maybe you're living on a, say, 6-7-20-20 split for a while, or even 7-1-20 if things are really tight. You have to aggressively shrink that wants bucket first to protect that 20% savings goal as much as humanly possible.
So the percentages aren't rigid dogma, but the idea of prioritizing, of setting aside that 20% for savings and debt first, that part is non-negotiable.
That's the core takeaway. The budget is your plan. It's about intention. It tells you, okay, I've handled my needs, I've secured my future 20%, now I know exactly how much I have left that 30% or whatever it is to enjoy guilt-free. It stops that accidental leakage.
Okay, speaking of securing that 20%, let's get into what feels like the operational magic trick of this whole plan. Pillar 3, automating your savings. If the budget's the amount.
Automation is the self-driving car taking you there.
Yeah, I like that.
This is, hands down, the easiest and probably smartest thing you can do for your savings. It's about using systems instead of relying on willpower, which, let's be honest, fails us sometimes.
All the time, for me at least.
Right. So you set it up with your bank, or maybe through your employer if they offer it, to automatically move a slice of your paycheck, that 20% or whatever percentage you decided on, into a separate savings or investment account.
And the key is it happens the moment the paycheck lands, right?
Yeah.
Before you even see it in your main account.
Exactly. Pay yourself first, but digitally and automatically. The psychology here is huge because you never really see that money in your checking account. You don't mentally count it as available to spend.
Out of sight, out of mind, but in a good way.
Precisely. It just gets whisked away. Saving stops being this like chore you have to remember to do every month. This thing that requires discipline. It just happens.
Yeah.
It becomes a permanent, frictionless habit.
And this really speaks to the power of consistency, doesn't it?
Right.
We sometimes think we need to save these huge lump sums, but the sources emphasize that small amounts saved consistently are way more powerful than big amounts saved, once in a blue moon.
Oh, absolutely. Let's just look at this simple math. Say you manage to save, I don't know, $50 every now and then.
Yeah.
Maybe 3-4 times a year. Okay, that's $100 to $50, $200. Better than nothing, sure.
Right.
But if you automate just $50 a week, which for many people is manageable if they've done pillar 1 and 2, that's $2,600 a year.
Yeah.
Automatically. No effort after the initial setup.
Wow. Okay. That adds up fast.
It really does. You're relying on the system to build the habit, and the results follow. The goal is basically to make saving the default, the mandatory thing, and make spending what's left over the optional part.
Love it. Okay, so automation takes care of money coming in and going to the right place, but we also need to plug the leaks where money is going out without us really noticing.
The silent leaks.
Yeah, the sources call them silent money leaks, which leads us to pillar 4, canceling unused subscriptions.
Ah, yes. This is such low-hanging fruit, and pretty much everyone listening has probably got a few of these lurking. Our whole economy now seems built on tiny recurring charges.
It really does.
So the instruction here is simple, but you got to do it. Pull up your credit card statements, your bank statements for maybe the last 3 months, and audit every single recurring charge. No exceptions.
What are we looking for specifically? I mean, Netflix is obvious if you use it, but it's the forgotten ones.
Exactly. It's the gym membership you signed up for with great intentions back in January, but haven't used since February.
Guilty.
Right. Or that streaming service you got just to watch one specific show and then totally forgot to cancel. Or maybe an app subscription, cloud storage you don't need anymore. Companies often rely on inertia. They sometimes even make it intentionally tricky to cancel using what are called dark patterns because they know people forget.
That inertia is basically profit for them.
Huge profit. The sources suggest the average person might be unknowingly spending anywhere from, say, $30 to maybe even $100 a month on forgotten subscriptions.
$100 a month?
Yeah. Let's be conservative and say it's $50 a month. That's still $600 a year just vanishing for zero value.
$600 that could have gone straight into that 20% savings bucket or paid off debt faster. Okay, so the advice is be ruthless.
Absolutely ruthless. If you haven't actively used a service in, say, the last 60 days, cancel it, or at least pause it if that's an option, immediately. If you find you genuinely miss it after a month, okay, fine, you can always resubscribe.
But chances are
you won't even notice it's gone, except your bank balance will be slightly healthier. The cost of not paying attention here is surprisingly high.
Okay, we've plugged the automatic leaks and set up automatic savings. Now we get into the sort of daily battlefield, mastering the everyday spending habits, where I guess the biggest behavioral shifts need to happen.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road for many people.
Let's start with Pillar 5, which tackles what the sources say is often one of the single biggest controllable drains on our finances, cooking at home more often.
Oh, eating out or ordering in. It's a massive drain, primarily because it's a convenience cost. When you buy food prepared outside your home restaurant, takeout, fast food, whatever, you're paying for way more than just the ingredients.
Right, you're paying for their rent, their staff, the service, the ambiance.
Everything. The analysis shows that a meal eaten out costs, on average, somewhere between 4 to 7 times more than making basically the same meal yourself from scratch.
4 to 7 times? That's huge. So if my home-cooked meal costs, say, $5 in ingredients,
you could easily be spending $20, $25, even $30 for something similar ordered in or eaten out. Easily.
Wow. Okay. And if you do that multiple times a week, like maybe a few dinners, maybe buying lunch at work every day.
It spirals incredibly fast.
Yeah.
The potential savings here are massive. The sources show that just committing to cooking, say 3 extra meals at home per week, maybe swapping 3 lunches out for packed lunches, can realistically save you hundreds of dollars every single month.
Hundreds? Just from 3 meals?
Yeah. That could free up a significant chunk, maybe 15–20% of the money you currently have in that wants bucket, without feeling like you're sacrificing much.
But here's the pushback, right? Time. People get takeout because they're tired after work, they don't have energy. How do we tackle that very real friction point?
The key is efficiency. And the big strategy here is meal prepping.
Ah, the Sunday ritual.
Pretty much. You dedicate a bit of time, maybe just a couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon, to cook some staple ingredients in bulk. Cook up some chicken, roast some vegetables, make a big batch of rice or quinoa, then you portion it out into containers.
So you front load the effort.
Exactly. Then, come Tuesday night when you're exhausted, the decision isn't, should I cook or order pizza? The decision is already made. The healthy, cheap meal is right there in the fridge, ready to be heated up. It removes the friction.
And it's a double win, right? Good for the wallet.
They're usually much better for your health, too, since you control the ingredients, the salt, the portion sizes. Win-win.
Okay, moving from meals to the stuff we buy for meals and other household items. Pillar 6, buying in bulk, but, and this is a big but, only when it makes sense.
Yes, the qualifier is critical here. Bulk stores, like Costco or Sam's Club, are marketing geniuses. They make you feel like you're saving money on everything. And you can get undeniable per unit savings on certain things. But it has to be items you use regularly, consistently, and importantly, things that won't go bad before you use them up.
So staples.
Exactly. Think rice, dried pasta, maybe canned goods if you actually eat them regularly, toilet paper, paper towels, coffee beans if you drink a lot of coffee. Non-perishables are things you go through quickly.
Okay, so what's the danger zone? Where does the deal turn into waste?
The danger is overbuying things that are perishable, or things you just don't use that often.
Yeah.
See a giant 5-pound block of fancy cheese on sale. Great per ounce price. But if you only manage to eat half before the rest gets moldy.
You didn't save money. You actually paid double the price for the half you ate.
Precisely. or buying like 20 cans of soup because they're cheap, but your family rarely eats canned soup. They just sit in the pantry for years. That's not saving. That's just clutter. And it's wasted money tied up in stuff you don't need. The goal is saving cash, not accumulating inventory.
Right. Use it or lose the savings. Okay, we've dealt with leaks and logistics. Pillar 7 hits the psychology of shopping. Avoiding impulse purchases. That moment, you're scrolling online or walking through a store and suddenly you just need that gadget, that jacket.
The siren song of instant gratification. Our brains are kind of wired for it. There's a concept called hyperbolic discounting. Basically, we tend to value a small reward now, the pleasure of buying the thing, much, much more highly than a bigger reward later, like the savings adding up.
The immediate dopamine hit wins.
It hijacks our logical brain.
Yeah. So how do we fight back? How do we build a little firewall against that impulse?
The sources offer a really simple but surprisingly effective trick. The 24-hour rule.
Okay.
If you see something non-essential that you suddenly feel you must have, you impose a mandatory 24-hour waiting period. Don't put it in your online cart. Don't even bookmark the page right away. Just walk away. Step back from the temptation entirely.
And the idea is that cooling off period lets the logical brain catch up.
Exactly. That initial emotional urgency, that need feeling, it almost always fades significantly within 24 hours. Your rational mind kicks back in. And most of the time, you'll realize, you know what? I don't actually need that.
Huh?
You saved the money without feeling deprived because the intense craving just passed.
That's clever. Are there ways to reduce the temptation in the first place?
Definitely. Preemptive defense.
Yeah.
Mass unsubscribe from all those promotional emails that flood your inbox. Delete shopping apps from your phone, or at least move them off your home screen, basically. Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind, out of your wallet.
Makes sense for online traps. Now, Pillar 8 feels a bit, old school, but it tackles that same psychological point in the physical world, using cash for daily spending.
It might feel old school, but it works for a reason. It's a direct counter to how abstract digital money feels. Swiping a card, tapping your phone. It's frictionless, almost painless. It minimizes the feeling of spending. But the research shows when you use physical cash, it actually activates pain centers in the brain related to loss. Watching that stack of bills in your wallet literally get smaller. It provides immediate, tangible, slightly painful feedback.
Okay, but wait. We spent Pillar 1 talking about tracking everything. Doesn't using cash make tracking harder? My banking app gives me perfect digital records.
That's a fair point, but they serve slightly different functions. The digital tracking tells you what already happened. Using cash helps create a boundary to prevent the spending from happening carelessly in the first place.
Okay. Proactive versus reactive.
Exactly. And the way you implement it fits right in with your budget. You take out a specific set amount of cash each week or maybe every payday, designated only for certain variable spending categories. Things like groceries, maybe coffee, entertainment, lunches out.
Like the envelope system, basically, but maybe just one discretionary cash pile.
Pretty much. You decide, okay, this week I have $150 for all that kind of stuff. You withdraw the cash, it's physically separate. And the rule is absolute. When the cash is gone, it's gone. You can't spend any more in those categories until the next week.
A hard stop.
Yeah, that finite limit is something a debit or a credit card just doesn't provide visually or psychologically.
Yeah.
It forces you to be more mindful with each purchase because you see the direct impact on your remaining cash.
Okay, interesting. Finally, for the daily habits, Pillar 9. Shopping smart comparing before you buy. That seems like basic common sense, but people skip it all the time, right? And probably waste money doing it.
All the time. It gets skipped because it requires a little bit of patience, a tiny bit of effort, and we're often trained to want things instantly. But this comparison step should be absolutely mandatory for any significant purchase, say anything over $50 or $100. Electronics, furniture, appliances, even your regular grocery shop.
You'd be shocked how often the same item is priced differently across different stores, even online.
Exactly. And technology makes comparing easier than ever. You should be using price comparison websites. There are browser extensions like Honey, which the sources mentioned, that automatically look for coupons and better prices while you shop online. Many stores have apps that alert you to sales or let you compare prices easily.
The few minutes it takes can save you real money.
The effort is minimal, literally seconds or minutes. But the return on that tiny investment of time can be huge, especially on bigger ticket items.
And let's end this section with that really important distinction the sources make about value.
Yes, this is crucial. A discount is not always the same as a deal or actual savings. Just because something you weren't planning to buy anyway is suddenly 50% off.
Doesn't mean you saved 50%.
Right. It means you spent 50% you hadn't planned on spending at all. True savings come from identifying what you genuinely need and then finding the best possible price for that specific item. Not from accumulating discounted stuff you didn't need in the first place just because it was on sale.
Okay, that was 9 really solid, practical pillars focused on control, process, and daily actions. But habits are hard to stick with if you don't have the right motivation. And that brings us to what might be the most foundational piece of this whole structure. Pillar 10, setting a clear financial goal.
This really is the engine. It's arguably the most important pillar because it provides the why. Saving just for the sake of saving, or just focusing on cutting back, it feels negative. It feels like deprivation. And that kind of motivation doesn't usually last.
You need something to aim for.
Exactly. Saving needs a purpose, not just a process. You need a destination that makes the effort feel worthwhile, something that provides excitement, a visual target.
So we need to define that target clearly. Like, what are we actually building towards? Is it a dream vacation,
Right.
a down payment for a house, paying off that one really annoying high-interest credit card, or maybe reaching a certain level of, financial freedom?
Whatever it is, it needs to feel tangible and exciting to you. That clear purpose transforms saving from this painful chore of cutting back into an exciting process of building something. The sources recommend using basic goal-setting principles. Make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART goals.
Right. Don't just say, I want to save more money.
Exactly. Say, I am saving $10,000 for a down payment on a condo, and I want to reach that goal by December 2026. Much more powerful.
And once you have that specific goal, what are the next steps? Just having it isn't enough, right?
Right. You need to make it visible and track your progress.
Right.
Write the goal down somewhere you'll see it often. Maybe visualize achieving it. Really picture yourself on that vacation or unlocking the door to that new home. And crucially, track your progress regularly.
Why is tracking progress towards the goal so important?
Because it creates a positive feedback loop. When you see your savings account tick up from, say, $4,000 to $4,100 towards that $10,000 goal, that little win feels good. It reinforces all the disciplined behaviors from the other pillars, the tracking, the cooking at home, skipping the impulse buy. It connects today's small sacrifice to tomorrow's big dream. The goal fuels everything else.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, and finally, there's a bonus tip. Something that goes beyond just cutting costs day to day and looks more at long-term financial health. Learn about money.
Yeah, this is about recognizing that true sustainable financial well-being isn't just about spending less right now. It's about understanding how money actually works, how it can grow. It's about shifting from just managing your money defensively to making your money actively work for you. And that requires knowledge.
So we're encouraging people to become their own students of finance, like reading books, maybe listening to other financial podcasts that focus on investing, watching educational videos.
Absolutely. You don't need to become a Wall Street guru, but understanding the basics can make a massive difference in your long-term outcomes. What specific areas should people focus on learning?
Good question.
The sources highlight 3 really critical concepts. First, deepening your understanding of budgeting as intentional planning, not just restriction. Second, learning the basics of investing, how to put your money in places where it can potentially grow faster than inflation, like the stock market, through low-cost index funds. And third, the big one, really grasping the power of compound interest.
Ah, compound interest. Einstein supposedly called it the 8th wonder of the world, but it still feels kind of abstract for a lot of people. Can we make it more concrete?
Let's try a quick example, similar to what the sources illustrate. Imagine 2 people. Person A starts saving just $100 a month when they're 25 years old. Person B waits until they're 35, but they save $200 a month, twice as much.
Okay.
Now, assuming they both get a pretty average market return, say 7% per year, who do you think has more money at retirement age, like 65?
Person B is putting in double the money, but person A started 10 years earlier. I'm guessing person A.
You got it. Person A, even though they contributed less overall money each month, will likely end up with a significantly larger nest egg. Why? Because those first 10 years gave their money much more time to compound to earn returns, and then for those returns to earn their own returns.
That extra decade of growth on the early money is just irreplaceable.
It's the magic of time. That's the whole point. Saving small amounts, starting as early as you possibly can, and learning how to invest that money wisely, even just in simple ways. That builds a far more secure financial future than just trying to cut costs aggressively later in life. This bonus pillar is about building the knowledge and habits for lifelong financial growth. Hashtag take, out, check, outro.
Wow, okay. That was a really comprehensive deep dive. A lot to absorb, but incredibly practical. Let's just quickly run through those 10 pillars one last time to lock them in.
Good idea.
1. Track every penny. 2. Create a realistic 5-30-30-20 up. 3. Automate your savings. 4. Cancel those unused subscriptions.
5. Cook more meals at home. 6. Buy in bulk, but only what you'll actually use. 7. Use the 24-hour rule to avoid impulse buys.
8. Use cash for daily discretionary spending. 9. Compare prices before you buy anything significant. And 10, maybe the most important, set a clear, motivating financial goal.
And if there's one single message to take away from all this, it's that getting control of your finances, being able to save, it's not really about how much you earn. It's about intention. It's about consistency. It's about setting up systems and making small, deliberate choices every day.
Right. And never underestimate the power of those small choices. We talked about the $4 coffee.
Yeah.
But flip it around. Saving just $5 a day, maybe skipping that coffee or packing lunch instead of buying it. That adds up to over $1,800 a year. That's not nothing. That's a serious boost to your emergency fund, a big chunk off a credit card, or real progress towards that Pillar 10 goal.
Exactly. So the final thought is really simple. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect time or until you get a raise or until your debt is gone. The absolute best time to start taking control, to start building that better financial future, to harness that power of compounding. It's always right now.
Start today. Maybe just start with Pillar 1. Figure out where your money's actually going.
That's the perfect first step.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope this roadmap helps you shift from accidental spending to intentional building. Until next time.